Hello there, I'm Thundaga and welcome to my How to Make a Pokemon Game tutorial series. This series will cover all of the essential info you need to make a Pokemon game in RPG Maker and Pokemon Essentials. In this episode, we'll be looking at custom items. First, we'll review how items are defined in the PBS. Then after that, we'll define our own new items. We'll make a new type of potion, and then we'll also make a new type of Pokeball. We'll also make a basic key item and then set up an NPC that will only let us pass them if we have that item in our inventory. The last item that we'll make is a more complicated item. It'll be a special flute that sets up the rain weather in battle, and we can make this item work outside of battle too. Then we'll cover the item effects script and show off how all the items are set up in code as we make our new items. And then finally, we'll show them all off in-game. With all that said, let's get into it. As you probably already know, the items are defined inside of our PBS folder. If we scroll down here, we can see the items.txt. Inside of the Items PBS file, we can see the definitions for all the items that came with Pokemon Essentials. Items have an ID in all caps at the top of their definition, and then underneath we can see their name and their name plural. Name plural is shown when receiving multiple of this item, so you could receive 1 repel or 2 repels. Items also have an optional definition for portion name and portion name plural, such as Stardust here. When these are defined, the portion name is shown when receiving this item instead. So you'll receive a bag of Stardust or bags of Stardust instead of just a Stardust. After this is the item pocket, which is a number that determines where it's stored in our bag. Pocket 1 is for items. Pocket 2 is for medicine. Pocket 3 is for Pokeballs. Pocket 4 is for TMs and HMs. Pocket 5 is for berries. Pocket 6 is for mail, which I never use. Pocket 7 is for battle items like X-Speed. And last but not least, Pocket 8 is for key items. The names of these bag pockets can be changed in the settings script around line 186 here. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can see there are other settings for the bag that we can change as well. For each pocket, you can change the bag max pocket size, which by default is set to -1, meaning it's an infinite pocket size. You can also set it per pocket to auto-sort the bag by item ID number. And as we can see here, the only pockets where this is set to true by default are for TMs and berries. It's also possible to set the max amount of each item the player can hold, which by default is capped at 999. The next thing in the Item PBS definition is price. This is how much you have to pay when you're buying this item from a shop. So for the potion here, we just pay 200. By default, when we sell this item, we'll get half of the price. But if you want, you could also define a sell price for an item. For example, the chipped pot item has a sell price defined, which is set to 19,000. After this is the BP price, which is how much this item costs in the Battle Points shop. You can see an example of this in the Battle Frontier map in the Base Essentials maps. Inside of the Battle Frontier Mart are some vendors here, and when we look inside their event, we can see that they used the script PB Battle Points shop. This will open a store where you can buy items with BP instead of money. Next are the item's usage settings. Items that can be used will have either a field use or a battle use, or both if the item can be used everywhere. Other items that can't be used, such as held items, will have neither of these though, such as leftovers. A good example of an item that has both field use and battle use would be a potion, whereas a battle item like the X-Speed only has battle use since you can't use them outside of a battle. When setting these usage parameters, we have a few options for field and battle use. For field use, we have on Pokemon, direct, and then we also have TM, TR, or HM. If we set field use equal to on Pokemon, then that means we'll select a Pokemon to use this item on, such as when we use a potion, and then we pick our Pokemon that we want to heal. If field use is set to direct, then that means we just use the item without needing to select a Pokemon, for example, when we use a repel. If the field use is set to TM, TR, or HM, then that means using this item will teach a move to a Pokemon, and then it will either disappear if it's a TR, or stay around if it's not. Moves that are taught by an HM cannot be forgotten except via the move deleter. For the battle use setting, we have a couple more that we can choose from, that are generally pretty self-explanatory. There's on Pokemon, that functions the same as its field use counterpart, where we pick a Pokemon as our target and then we use the item on them. There's also on Move, where we choose a Pokemon and then we choose one of their specific moves to use the item on, for items like the Ether that restore PP. Then there's on Battler, which will use the item on the Pokemon that's currently out in battle for things like X-Speed. If battle use is set to on Foe, then this item will be used on the opposing Pokemon, for example the Pokeball. If there are multiple opposing Pokemon, then we'll get to choose the target. And last, there's direct, which works the same as before, where we don't choose any target and then the item just activates its effect. For example, the Poke Doll, which when used makes you escape a wild battle. After the usage parameters, we have the item flags. There are a lot of these item flags, and in general, I would recommend that you either look through the items that have already been defined to get an idea of what they are, or consult the Essentials Engine Wiki for the full list. This page is a great resource and the link will be in the video description. These are generally pretty self-explanatory though, such as the berry flag being for berries, and the fossil flag being for fossils, and so on and so forth. There are a couple specific flags though that would be good to take a note of. First, the Mega Ring flag here makes it so that way this item is considered a Mega Ring, which will allow Mega Evolution. As long as we have an item with the Mega Ring flag in our inventory, we can Mega Evolve our Pokemon. Next up is the Fling flag, which will control how much damage this move does when thrown by Fling. And lastly is the Natural Gift tag, which is really only set for berries, but it'll set the type of the move as well as the base power. Next are a couple optional settings for the items. The first one is consumable, and is by default set to true, except for key items and TMs and HMs. When consumable is true, which it is by default, that means when you use a normal item, it is then consumed and it disappears. If you ever set it to false though, then the item is not consumed and you can use it repeatedly. For example, the Flute items, such as Blue Flute, have consumable equal false, so you could use them over and over again forever. After that is show quantity. This isn't really ever used and only applies to key items. By default this is false for key items, but if we ever set show quantity equals true for a key item, we can then see how many of that key item we're holding in our inventory. As long as this item cannot be registered, because for items like the bicycle, the register button will block the count. Next up is move, which is the ID of the move that's taught by a TM or TR or HM. So for example, TM01 here teaches the move Focus Punch. And lastly, we have the item description, which will just show when we view the item in our bag or in the store and describe how the item works. All items should have a corresponding icon in our graphics items folder. These are all 48 by 48 pixels and will have a name that matches the item ID. For example, the Adamant Mint here. The only items that don't have their own unique graphic are the TM, TR, and HM items. These will instead automatically pull from the list of generic icons in this folder for TMs and TRs and HMs. So if we ever make a new Fire TM, it'll automatically know to just use the graphic Machine Fire. Now that we've covered most of what goes into defining a new item, let's make a few of our own now. I want to make 4 new items for this tutorial, and I've gone ahead and already made the graphics for each of them. Here we have a new potion that we're going to make, and I'm calling it the Half Potion. This will heal half of a Pokemon's total HP. I'm also going to make a new type of Pokeball called the Air Ball. This will be better at catching flying Pokemon or Pokemon with the ability Levitate. Whenever we make a new type of Pokeball, we should also be sure to make 2 new graphics that live inside of the Graphics Battle Animations folder here. These are for the ball as it flies through the air after being thrown, and then another graphic for the ball opening. I've gone ahead and already made those, so as we can see, this is ball_airball, and then this is ball_airball_open. It was pretty easy to make these since I was just recoloring the Ultra Ball here. Next up we have this item called the Weird Medal. We'll set up an event that only lets us walk past if we're holding 3 weird medals. And lastly, we have the Rain Flute. This will change the weather to rain, both in and out of battle. So let's go in and start making our PBS entries now. For our new potion, let's find where the existing potion is defined, and then we can go and copy and paste it and then begin modifying it until it looks like our new item. So I'm gonna go in here, and we're gonna change the ID to Half Potion. And for the name, let's also call it Half Potion, name plural, Half Potions, pocket to price, let's crank it up a little bit so it's a little bit more expensive, 1,000. And then for the field use, it should be the exact same, so we can use it on a Pokemon, whether it's in field or in the battle. For the fling, I don't really care. And then for description, let's make it so that way this describes it healing half of the Pokemon's health. What we can do is we can delete this and we can have it say instead, how about restores half of a Pokemon's max health. There we go. We'll still need to code how this item functions in the scripts, which we'll cover in just a little bit after we define the rest of our items. Now let's make the Air Ball, which will end up being a copy and paste of the Pokeball. So if we go Control F and we search for Pokeball, we can see that there's a lot defined here because Pokeball is also a flag. But here is the Pokeball. Let's go and copy this, go in and paste it. and then start setting up a new airball item ID, airball item name, airballs. It'll be in pocket 3. We can make them a little bit more expensive, sure. How about 700? Battle use on foe, flag Pokeball, and that's looking pretty good so far. Now I just need to change the description. How about it is better at catching, flying, or levitating Pokemon. There we go, we're already halfway done defining our new items. The next one's going to be the easiest to define, and that is the weird metal, because it's a key item that doesn't do anything. Let's go in and find some of the other key items, like for example, I don't know, how about the town map? This is an item that does something, but it's easy enough to strip away the functionality. So instead, for our town map, let's just go and copy this, paste it, and then start making our weird metal. Go name weird metal as well. I mean, I don't know, maybe the metal actually is kind of cool. It's kind of got a cool face on it, but it has a weird function for our game. Pocket 8 because it's a key item, price 0. We're not going to be able to buy this anyway or sell it. For field use, let's just get rid of it. We cannot use the weird metal. For the flags, it is a key item. And for description, let's say a very weird metal with a weird looking face on it. And there we go, straightforward. Let's also not forget, for our weird metal, we want to show quantity for this one and set that equal to true, because we're going to pick up 3 of these for our event. The last one that we want, though, is we want to make a rain flute that functions both in battle and out of battle. Let's look at the existing flutes and then modify one to then make it work like our rain flute. So let's do Control F. We can find where the blue flute is defined and start copying and modifying this. Let's go in here and call it the rain flute. Name, rain flute, plural. You should really only ever get one, but sure, rain flutes. Let's change the pocket to 8, so that way it'll be for our key items. Price 0, because we don't ever want to sell it. For field use, this should be direct, because we don't want to choose a target. For battle use, it should also be direct, because we don't want to choose a target, we just play it, and then it starts raining. Then for flags, we don't want to be able to fling this, that would be bad. Let's instead give it the key item flag. Then consumable equals false, so we'll play it and it will not disappear. And then for description, we'll just say a special flute that summons the rain weather. Both, oh my gosh, I can't type, both in and out of battle. And there we go, we already have our 4 new item PBS definitions complete. The last thing we need to do now is in our scripts, set up the functionality for all of these item usages. Thankfully, this is pretty straightforward to do, and we can do it by copying and pasting a lot of existing code from the item effects and item battle effects scripts. In the scripts are the item effects for field use, and then the item battle effects for battle use. In both of these scripts, if we scroll through, we can see how all the functionality is set up for all the items in our game. There are a ton of different item handler functions defined here in both of these scripts. These cover things like use from bag or use on Pokemon for the item effects, or in the battle effects, these cover things like can use in battle or battle use on Pokemon. Additionally, I also recommend checking out the battle item effects script, since this is where most held items get their functionality defined. For example, how leftovers heals the holder by 1/16 of their total HP in the item effect end of round healing. Let's go back to the item effects and start setting up the field use for our half potion. Let's look for where the potion is defined. If we do Control F and then potion, we can see here that it is in item handler use on Pokemon. And we can also see that it is healing our Pokemon by 20 HP. Underneath this, we can also see that there is a copy where Berry Juice and Sweetheart will also be copying Potion's effect and heal the Pokemon by 20 health. In field use, if we use a potion on our Pokemon, it will call the function PBHP item. PBHP item is a function defined in the item utilities, and what this will do is we'll either return false and say it won't have any effect if the Pokemon cannot be healed. Otherwise, if they can be healed, it'll play a sound effect, and then it will also restore the Pokemon's health, and then play a message saying how much of their health was restored. So what we could do here is just copy this potion item handler, use on Pokemon, and instead replace it with our half potion. But now, instead of healing by 20 health, we need to make it so it heals by half of our Pokemon's max health. A good reference here would be the Citrus Berry. We can see that this is doing Pokemon.total HP over 4 to heal for a quarter of our total health. Let's copy this and scroll back up to our half potion, and instead of healing by 20, let's just heal by Pokemon.total HP over 2. And there we go. If we use this item from the field, then it will heal our Pokemon for half of their total health. But that's only for the field use. We also have to set it up for if we use it on our Pokemon in a battle. To do that, we need to go into Item Battle Effects. While we're here, let's do Control F Potion and see how they've got that set up. The first thing we need to do is see the item handler can use in battle, and this checks to see if we can even use the item at all. This is doing a conditional check and saying, hey, if the Pokemon is unable to be healed, like if their Pokemon health is already equal to their max health, then it'll display a message saying it won't have any effect and not allow us to use the item. Underneath that, we can see that this can use in battle condition is being copied by a lot of other healing items, from potion to super potion, hyper potion, max potion, etc. What we could do is add our half potion into the mix here, so that way our half potion cannot be used if no other potions can be used. They'll use the same conditions. So that's the first half already done. We can't use our half potion if we can't heal our Pokemon. Now the next thing we need to do is check and see where the battle use on Pokemon is defined for the potion. That's defined a little bit lower here, where it follows basically the exact same format as our field use, where it's battle use on Pokemon, potion, and then we can see it's calling this function here, PB battle HP item on our Pokemon, the battler, healing by 20, and then scene. It's slightly different, but it's roughly the same format that we used before, where we've got a general idea of what we need to do here. Let's go in and copy this, go underneath it and paste it, and make this our half potion. Instead of 20 for our half potion though in battle, let's make it so that way instead it does Pokemon.total HP over 2. Now if we use this item in battle, if we can use it, it'll say, hey, we're gonna heal your Pokemon by half of its total health. Now our half potion is set up to be used in field and in battle. Let's show them both off in game real quick. In the debug menu, after scrolling down a bit, we can see our half potion can be found in here. And let's give ourselves a bunch of half potions. Now, to test this even further, let's go in and debug change our Loudred's health to be really low. Our Loudred here has 81 health, but if we go to debug, set HP, we can set it down to something like 21. So we should expect to see around 40 health restored when we use a half potion on Loudred here. Let's show off the field use and go into bag and then find our half potion. There we go, we got a lot of them. Let's use it on our Loudred. There we go. It was restored by 40 health. That's great! Awesome, now let's show it off in a battle. I've gone ahead and lowered Loudred's health again. Now if we go into our bag, now that we're in a battle, and we use the half potion, and we use it on our Loudred, we're using it, and it restores 40 health. Nice! Perfect, looks like it's working just fine in and out of battle. Now that our new potion is working, let's make our new Pokeball. If we look up here, we can see that item handlers use in battle add if Pokeballs is defined, and this is doing a PB throw Pokeball for all items that are flagged as Pokeballs. Up above, there's also the can use in battle defined for all Pokeballs, where it will determine if we can or cannot use a Pokeball. There's a lot of things that could cause us to not be able to use a Pokeball, such as if our PC storage is full, or if for whatever reason the battle disable Pokeballs flag is turned on. But if all these conditions end up being true, then towards the end, then we can actually use the Pokeball. Since all Pokeballs already have their can use in battle defined, as well as their use in battle defined, we are all set to use our airball in-game. But we need to start setting up the catch modifiers, and that is done inside of the battle Pokeball effects script here. Looking through this script, we can see that there are things that modify the catch rate. For example, the Great Ball is 1.5 better than the base catch rate. The Ultra Ball is 2 times better. Looking even further into here, we can see that the Net Ball has a better catch rate of either 3.5 or 3, depending on if we're using new Pokeball catch rates, only if the enemy battler that we're using it on has the type Bug or has the type Water. Let's go ahead and copy this and paste this and use this for our Air Ball, since our Air Ball is going to be good against either flying type enemies or enemies with the ability Levitate. First things first, let's make it so that this modify catch rate is applying to our Air Ball. Then we don't really need to worry about this setting for new Pokeball catch rates. Let's just make it so that the multiplier is equal to 5. The Air Ball is really good at catching flying or levitating Pokemon. Then our catch rate is multiplied by the multiplier if the enemy battler has the type of flying, or if they have the ability Levitate. If we do Control-Shift-F for Levitate, we can see here a good example in the Use Move Success check, where if the target has active ability Levitate. So let's go and put this in our check for the Air Ball. So once again, if the battler.pb has type flying, or if battler.has active ability levitate, then our multiplier catch rate will be 5. Let's test this out in-game now. In debug, we can see our item is here, the air ball, and let's give ourselves a bunch of air balls. How about 100 of them? Nice. Now, let's go and try to catch a wild Pokemon that is flying. Let's do battle, test wild battle, and how about we go up against a Spearow? And let's set the level pretty high, because our catch rate's going to be multiplied by 5. This air ball is going to be pretty good at catching this flying Pokemon. Alright, come on, air ball. Catch it on the first try. I know you can do it. I believe in you. And there's our sprites, too. That's cool, seeing the air ball in battle. Alright, come on, baby. Let's go. We got it on the first try. The air ball is really good at catching flying Pokemon. Let's also test it against a Pokemon with levitate, something like electric here. We know that electric has levitate, and we can confirm this by going into the debug, battlers, foci battlers, electric, and doing set ability here. Its ability is levitate. Perfect. Alright, so we should hopefully be able to catch this in one air ball. Come on, that catch rate times 5 should be pretty good here. I'm thinking we get a first time catch, even though it's a level 45 electric. Yes, the air ball is too good. And it worked. We caught a level 45 electric on our very first throw because it properly checked to see if they have the ability levitate. Nice. Now that we've got our new potion and our new Pokeball working, let's look into setting up that thing for the weird medal. The weird medal doesn't have any functionality for us to define in the scripts, so instead let's do some eventing where we'll have an NPC that only lets us pass if we're holding 3 weird medals. If you recall from a previous tutorial, we made this guy here who will block us and tell us to back it up, bub, if our badge count, or rather if we don't have badge 16. This is a conditional branch script here, which we'll also be doing for our new event. Let's go ahead and copy this guy, then go into route 3 and paste him right about here, and he'll only let us forward past him if we're holding 3 weird medals. Let's go back into the event and begin modifying him. First things first, the counter and then a number here gives him a vision range, so we want his vision range to allow him to block the entire route. If we move this window over here, we can see that's 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles. So he'll interact with us if we step on any of these 4 tiles. Then we also need to make it so that way the trigger is event touch. Now, if we go in and do the conditional branch script here, we can start modifying it so instead checks to see our items. So instead of checking against the player's badges, let's delete all this. What we want to do is check and see if our bag has some items in them. And funnily enough, it is done by doing $bag.has. Then we do a question mark, and then we do the item ID inside that we want to check, led by a colon. So we want to see if we have a weird medal. Then you can also plug in a number here. This will return true if we have 3 or more weird medals, else it will return false. Then let's set handling when conditions do not apply. Then let's get rid of these and start doing some things for if true or false. If we have 3 or more weird medals, he'll say, hey, you got enough medals. Right on, kid. Right on, kid. Then we'll also do insert and then control self switch A on, so that way this guy just straight up disappears, where we have a second page with self switch A on. Let's also make him say insert show text. I'm out of here. Later. Sweet. So if we have 3 or more weird medals, then he'll say, hey, you got enough medals, I'm out of here, and then disappear. Otherwise, we'll have him say, hey, you need more medals. What the heck? There we go, and let me fix my typos real quick because I can't type today. Then after that, we will make it so that way our player, we do a set move route on the player, will move down. So the player cannot advance unless they have 3 weird medals. Now let's start copying and pasting some item Pokeballs so we can pick up 3 weird medals. I've already got one made here that I copied and pasted from Route 2 of Base Essentials, but it's just doing PB item ball and then giving us an item. So let's copy this and paste it like right here, and inside it gives us a weird medal. Then if we go and we copy and paste this a few more times here, then we can pick up 3 weird medals. Now let's go into the game and test this. And let's also test the fact that we are doing show quantity so we can see how many weird medals we're holding. All right, let's walk on over and pick one of these up. There we go, we found a weird medal. Perfect. If we go in and check our bag now, we can see in the key items, we're holding 1 weird medal. Then if we go down here, we can pick up another one. So now we're holding 2 weird metals. I set show quantity equals true to both the weird metals and the Flute, just for example here. But look at that, look how good it looks in game. Well, actually no, it looks pretty terrible. We're only holding 2, let's see if this guy lets us past. Hey, you need more metals, what the heck? Oh, come on, let me buy, please. What the heck? Oh, dang, this guy's kind of a jerk. Okay, we've got 3 weird metals now. Let's confirm, bada boom, there they are. Let's walk past this guy now. Hey, you got enough metals, right on, kid. I'm out of here, later. And then he just disappears. Beautiful, what an event, huh? So we've got 3 weird metals and we're able to walk past that weird guy. What a series of weird events, but we're through. Now let's set up our most complicated item, and that'll be the Rain Flute, which has a different function in the field than it does in the battle. First things first for our Rain Flute, let's look at some of the item handlers used in field here, like the Black Flute, the White Flute, and the Honey. It might be tempting to copy these existing flutes, but in reality, we really only need to copy the honey here, because what it's doing is 3 things that we need to do for our function. It's using PB Item Message, and that just prints out a message saying you use the item. Then there's the core of the functionality, and then it does next true at the end. We can copy and paste this exact same thing here, and start setting this up for our Rain Flute, where the only thing we need to do is actually make it rain, so we got the hardest part saved for last. The start and the end, though, are exactly what we want. So we need to figure out how to, in scripts, make it rain on our map when we play the Rain Flute. Let's also make it so that way if it's already raining, what it will do is stop the rain. Thankfully, there's already an event command that we can use to change the weather, so let's use that for reference. If we use Control-Shift-F and then type in set weather, we can find where the event command is set up here in the interpreter commands. What this does is it calls game screen weather and then passes in the 3 parameters that we set, 0, 1, and 2. If we open an event and look at the set weather events command here, we can see that these parameters are weather, power, and time. We don't really need to worry about power at all, and for the time we can make it so that the transition takes place over 10 frames, but what's most important here are these weather settings. This doesn't encompass all the weather effects that we can have in our Pokemon game, but it does encompass the 2 that we want for our flute. Weather index 0 is none for no weather, and weather index 1 is rain. So if we call that script command that we saw earlier and we plug in 0, that'll clear the weather and say no rain, and if we set it to 1, then it'll make it rain. Let's go and start doing something with that. If we go in and we copy this and set gamescreen.weather, then Control-Shift-F and go back to our Rain Flute, then we can start doing some things here where, based on conditions, we could either set the game screen weather to 1 to make it rain, or 0 for no rain. Then for the parameters, the strength, we could just set that to 1, doesn't really matter. And then for the time it takes to do the transition, let's make that 10 frames. So it doesn't instantly change the weather, but it kind of comes in. In fact, we could even make this 20 frames, so it's a little bit smoother. So if we ever call this gamescreen.weather and set it to 1, we'll make it rain. But what we need to do now is actually be able to check if it's already raining. How can we do that? Let's do Control-Shift-F and then type in :rain, because I know that there's a lot of places where we check the rain weather. There's a lot that has to do with battle rain, which we'll cover in a little bit, but let's check and see what's going on in evolution here. This is an evolution method that's set up for level rain, where if a Pokemon levels up and it's raining. This is checking to see if rain or fog are included in game data weather.get, and then game screen weather type, and then .category. We can simplify this even further though. If we scroll up here, we can just see that if game data weather.get, game screen weather type .category equals sun for level sun. Let's just go in and copy and paste this and use it in our Rain Flute function and checking to see if the weather is rain. Control-Shift-F, Rain Flute to get back to it. And then let's do this, where if the category of weather is rain, then what we'll do is set it to not raining, which is this 0 here. And then let's go back and do else, and then we set it to 1. And then underneath this, we have to do end, because that's proper formatting. Let me do this also to fix our indentations. So if it's already rainy, clear the weather, else make it rain. Now let's play some messages here by using something underneath the PB message. We can just go in and copy this, and let's make it so that way when we do this, we paste this in here, and then we'll have it say something along the lines of, you cleared the rain weather with the Rain Flute. Then let's also go underneath here, do another PB message, and have it say you played the rain flute and made it rain. So now if we use the rain flute in the field, it will say we used it, and then it'll either make it rain or make the rain disappear. We can improve this though. We can make it so that way it closes the bag when we use the item, and that's from adding a use from bag handler. Honey does this and returns a 2, which will close the bag to use it when honey is used. So let's just go and copy this, go in and paste it, and let's make it so that the rain flute will also close the bag when used. Now if we open up our bag and we find our rain flute again, if we use it, it will say we used the rain flute. We played the rain flute and made it rain. Look at that, that's really nice. So one thing we could also do is hook up a sound effect for the flute. We could also do an additional check to see if it's an indoor map, but I think right now this is pretty good for the base functionality, at least for using it out of a battle. We can use the rain flute and then clear the rain weather with the rain flute, and then the weather will go back to not raining. That's already really nice. But now we need to set it up so that way it works in battle. For our rain flute to work in battle, there's 2 things we have to do. We have to define the can use in battle, and then we also have to define the battle use. For the can use in battle, I'm just thinking of having it available to always use. So for the Pokédoll, as an example, this has some instances where we can't use it, but what if we just made it always return true? What if we just went in and copied this and said, hey, if we're using the rain flute, and then just do next true. It'll always work if we're using the rain flute. We could add a check in here where if the map that we're on is an indoor map, then maybe not allow it to work. But for now, let's just make it so that way when we play it, it always summons the rain. Now let's go check the Pokédoll effect and then go look into copying that for our rain flute. So if item handlers use in battle is a Pokédoll, then it'll set the battle decision to 3, which means we're running away, and then say battle PB display paused, you got away safely. This is also true for the item Fluffy Tail and Poketoy. What we want to do is something similar to what we did before, where if it's already rainy, then we'll make the rain go away, otherwise we'll make it rain. Let's go in and copy this and say item handlers use in battle, add our rain flute. And instead of doing PB display paused, let's scroll down here to the Pokeflute and see what that's doing, and instead do battle PB display. And have it say something along the lines of, you played the rain flute. And then let's also get rid of the decision equals 3. One of the best ways that we could change the weather is actually done inside of the debug battle commands, so we can copy some of the script functionality from here. What we can do is change the type of weather, as well as the weather duration, and we can also check and see if a weather has already been set up. So for example here, if battle.field.weather equals none, then there is no weather already set up. Let's copy this and take it back to our rain flute. So underneath where it says you played the rain flute here, let's start doing our conditional check. Let's paste this in so it says if battle.field.weather equals none, then we'll set up the rain here, else we will remove the rain and then end at the end because we have to do that for our conditional. Now back to the debug script. Up here it's doing 2 things to set the weather. It's doing the battlefield weather and setting that to whatever we selected in the debug menu, and then it's also setting the battlefield weather duration equal to 5. If there was no weather already set up, if that's 0. Let's go and copy some of this and use this for our rain flute. So back at the rain flute, let's modify this condition real quick also. Instead, let's make it so that way if the battle weather does not equal rain, then we set up the rain. Then we'll set the battlefield weather equal to rain, and then set the weather duration to 5. Otherwise, the weather does equal rain, so let's make it so that way the battlefield weather equals none. And then let's also set the weather duration to 0. Now there's 2 more things we should do. We should play a different message depending on if we're making it rain versus clearing the rain, and then we should also show an animation if we make it rain. So let's go in here and say battle PB display, it started raining. Then underneath this, let's go and say it stopped raining. Now let's play the rain animation here real quick too, because I think that would look really good if we play the rain flute and then we actually see it start raining. One of the best ways for us to get the raining animation is here in the battle start and end script. Right here is when the battle start core is going. Underneath here we see weather data equals game data battle weather.try_get field weather. And then it plays the common animation for the weather data animation, if we can get weather data. What we can do is specifically set this to rain and then have it play the PB common animation for the rain weather. Let's go in and copy this. Then go back to our rain flute and make some quick changes. So right here underneath where we're setting the weather to rain, but above where we say it started raining, let's paste in that weather chunk of code we copied. Then, instead of trying to get the weather from the field, let's instead just set this to rain. Make sure I gotta capitalize that R there. Now it'll set the weather data equal to battle weather try get rain, and then it will play the animation for rain. And then one more thing we should do is battle.pb common animation. Now I think this is looking good. Let's go and test this out in game now. All right, now what we gotta do is just walk through the grass, trigger a wild battle, and let's show off our rain flute now, a level 2 Spearow. All right, we got some stiff competition here. How about we go and we play the rain flute? All right, we used it. It says you play the rain flute, so the messaging's a little redundant there, but hey, we got the common animation for the rain and says it started raining. And we're soundproof, great. Sweet, so now it is raining. Now let's go play the rain flute again. It'll say we used a rain flute, we played the rain flute, and it stopped raining now. There we go. That is pretty great. Our messaging is a little bit redundant here because it says we used it, and then it says we played it. But hey, we got the animations going, we got it to start raining, and yeah, that's looking pretty great in battle. I'm excited for this. Now that we're out of the battle, let's go and play our rain flute one more time. We can set the rain on this map. Look at that. This is a pretty cool item. It's very flexible, probably pretty overpowered if you got some water Pokemon on your team, but hey, it's kind of fun to see it and make some changes to the weather in-game. And that does it for this tutorial on custom items. I hope you feel more comfortable making and modifying your own items now. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something from this tutorial, please remember to like and subscribe. To access my tutorial website, please check the link in the video description. If you wish to support me further, consider becoming a channel member or visiting the Thundaga merch store linked in the description as well. As a reminder, this tutorial video is for Pokemon Essentials version 21.1, so in the future, it's very possible that the layout of some things could be changed. In general though, this series should get you where you need to go when it comes to making your own Pokemon fan game. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a good one. Best of luck to you in your Pokemon fan game endeavors. Bye now!